new Backseat critique. Look, Idris Elba. He's looking into your soul. There's also someone called Molly in it.
Which is not a cat, and I feel so misled.
Yes. Now, this is a patron request. The patron, they're $50, so they were like, here's the movie review title, here's a Backseat critique title. And if I remember correctly, it was there was something along the lines of, if you can't find that Backseat critique, do Molly's Game, but only because you have a cat called Molly. So
this was not about a cat.
I got a copy of Molly's Game.
She's like, let's watch this. It's a patron request. I was like, all right, sure. What's it about? I don't know. And I'm like, what's the title? Molly's Game. Oh, it's probably going to be horror, something like Saw. I'm like, Aaron Sorkin? He just does serious things.
I deliberately didn't...
Famous people are in this.
I deliberately didn't look up the film because I'd never heard of it, and I was like, okay,
over 2 hours, though.
I want to go into it completely blind.
I need to make chicken corn chowder tonight, and it was over 2 hours.
So, yeah. I do remember, though, reading about the real events that inspired this, mainly about Tobey Maguire.
I like that the person his character was played by Michael Cera, and it was really great because there's a part where like he's in first and she's like, I'm actually, and she's like, yeah, I know, and there's like a really quick montage shot of like him being famous, and I was like, so is he Michael Cera? Or is he Michael Cera playing someone else who's more famous?
I think in the film version he's meant to be like a distillation of all the Hollywood people she dealt with, because apparently it was enough for like 2 or 3 MCU films.
But the cool thing was that, like, as far as my personal mini headcanon for this film, as far as that can be considered, she was right up to say, yeah, I know, I saw Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, I know. Yeah. What's he been up to recently?
Michael Cera?
Yeah.
Being in this.
Well, I mean, but, like, I haven't seen him in anything else. He was, like, gonna be the next big thing in, like, this kind of, like, wheedly, like, nerd star kind of way, and then everyone kind of, like,
I'm unconvinced he was ever going to be the big thing.
I read an article in Entertainment Weekly when I worked, when I was back working at Barnes & Noble, about how Michael Cera was going to be the next big thing.
What I think happened is that Jesse Eisenberg irritated everyone, and everyone assumed Michael Cera was Jesse Eisenberg.
No, that's so unfair. He should sue.
And so he maybe lost work, and he's like, oh,
I'm not him. I'm the other one.
I'm like a clone, but I'm like the weedy, non-weird version.
You probably haven't even heard of me. Oh, it works on 2 levels, hipsters. Right, so this was based on a true story, which I hadn't heard of, but she had.
I heard bits of.
This because she was gonna be an Olympian probably if she made the trial. It's like the skiing the moguls, the little hilly things, but she hit a twig. And she got injured, and and apparently she'd had like significant spinal surgery when she was a kid. But so that crashed that out.
It's like a wipeout in a skiing video game, if you can imagine such a thing.
And so like basically it's set up in 2 ways. Like she's already been indicted for all of these like illegal things that she's done. So half of it is told from the present day with her hiring Idris Elba as her lawyer, who I think is just basically in films just to like not have any of your shit, because every time I see him, he's always just exasperated with everybody. Like, he's always just like, ugh.
He perfected that when he played the dad in the British soap opera Family Affairs back in the mid-90s.
Was he just done with everybody then?
He was just like, oh.
I think he should be James Bond. Come at me, bro. But yeah, so...
I'd be fine with that, although
he's
a bit too old now. Bond is for your
Daniel Craig in his 50s though.
Yeah, but he's done 3 Bond films. You don't want your new Bond to be in the. I think Idris Elba's about 50.
What's your man?
You don't want the new Bond to be out 50.
Your man who played in Baku.
In Baku though, is Winston Duke.
Yeah, him. I like him too. It'll just make people angry.
I like him. No, he's American.
Damn it.
I think he's American, but he's starring in Us, the new Jordan Peele film. And I'd love to see him get like a Dave Bautista career of like low budget action films. He has the charm and the intimidating thing to pull off that sort of career.
That was the best part. Black Panther. No, I won't feed you to my children. We're vegetarians here. You totally bought it.
He should have Dominic Purcell's career. He'd be far better than Dominic Purcell.
Yeah. With a lot less neck. Yeah. But so it's kind of told, like, her telling the story from how she started chronologically interspersed with, like, the future goings on. And also, like, a little bit of her dysfunctional family upbringing. And
what is it with Kevin Costner playing asshole dads who are damaging?
God, by the end of this, I just wanted to disembowel him with,
you wanted a tornado to come.
Stale bread roll. So it would hurt the most. But, like, no, it was so... And then, he's a psychologist. But apparently he's clinical. And it's not unheard of for clinicians to then go into teaching roles. But the thing that kind of got me is, I don't think he's meant to be a clinician. Because at the end he's like, oh, we'll sit down with you. Oh, we'll have 3 years of therapy in 3 minutes. But here's the thing. So he said, I put you kids through college, and I raised you kids on an associate professor's salary. Which means that he probably wasn't in active practice. Because he probably could have made a lot more if he was in active practice, especially during that time.
Yeah, but basically he had his full-time job doing, the teaching thing. He also had a full-time job of, being an asshole dad who was pushing his kids.
He was coaching all his kids to become amazing things. So
he didn't have time to also be in
a clinician.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was in active practice, which makes it even worse. So he was just a researcher or a lecturer, really. There's no indication he did any research. So, he's always,
he's researching ways to ruin his children's...
there's a scene where, high school version of her has an argument with him about Freud being a misogynist, which he was.
Well, yeah. He was from the 19th century. Yeah. He of course was a misogynist.
It would have been weird if he wasn't. But, and this guy, and this is supposed to be, I'm guessing, the 80s or the 90s?
She was in training for the 96 thing. That was probably about 89, 90, something like that.
Okay. So, the tide kind of changed against Freudian psychoanalysis, and Freud was starting to be debunked by the mid-80s. So, Freud fell out of fashion very, very quickly, as, basically a lot more...
Maybe that was in the middle of that, and that's why he was a bit antsy about it.
I guess, but I'm just you are really... my parents are both clinicians. And they were trained in, all of these kinds of theories and stuff like that. But they're not really about psychoanalysis. Most people will not be about psychodynamic theory or psychoanalysis. But yeah, the whole character, I just felt like, he is a psychologist. He understands the mind.
Let's use tropes.
That's not how that works. She's like, how did you know I'd be here? He finds her in New York City.
Yeah, she's she randomly decides to put on... ice skates for the first time.
At that big, rink that's always in rom-coms,
Yeah, for the first... So she does that for the first time since her accident. She gives this woman, her $800 gloves so she can get some skates. And she just... skating around being all oh, I got a symbolic thing. Symbolism is happening.
I thought she was going to run and do one of those triple twirly jumps.
And then her dad suddenly appears at the side and tells her to work on her leg work.
Bend your knee. And she's like, what? And she just smashed into somebody else. She could have injured the other person.
I assumed, until she turned around and he was still there and he was talking to her, I assumed it was a vision.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Oh, she's going to have this big revelation about how it was her father that basically tortured her. There's this part where she's describing, then one day, when I was 13, my back randomly exploded. And she's in a lot of pain. He's like, oh, come on, yeah, your back hurts, walk it off. She goes, 8 minutes later, I was in the back of an ambulance. And they basically had to rebuild her fucking spine. And this guy he's such a cocksmoker. Okay, he wasn't literally a cocksmoker, but he was, because he was cheating on the mom for years and years. We don't know if he was cheating with men or women, maybe both. And he's like, oh, things and so... And then he, fucking shows up at the end, to have a cathartic moment. And I'm like, no! That's not how that happens. And that makes me very angry, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because the message that sends to people who have grown up in toxic environments, or with narcissistic, toxic parents, or parents who are just bad people, is that, all it takes is 5 minutes, and the right 17, 18, 19, whatever words, and that's it. And then, oh, forgiven, oh, we're a happy family, oh, hugs and kisses. But that's not the way that things work in real life, and I really, really resent that. Because
remember, though, this is a film based on a book, based on her view on events, so the chances are this only vaguely resembles...
actually... Yeah. I know, I don't like that kind of Hollywood thing, because that implies that, they said, oh, yeah, I did really kind of psychologically and emotionally, and physically in this case, damage you for the better part of your natural life. Oh, but see, you knew that you saw me cheating when you were 5, but you didn't realize that that's what it was, and so that's why I hated you. And I'm like, and she's like, oh, and then they hug, and I'm like, no, stop that.
My hair is fabulous.
Oh, well, she just got out the shower. Well, I mean, 2 hours ago, actually. But yeah, so, no, I mean, it was an okay movie. It's not the kind of movies I'm into. You talk, because I feel like I've been going off and on.
There was an awful lot of,
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie.
Aaron Sorkining, so you have people...
What is Aaron Sorkining?
Well, people giving sort of mini lectures disguised as dialogue. People sort of frantic dialogue scenes. It's he
frantic dialogue.
Well, yeah, and he has also there is like, I don't have a list in front of me, but there are people who have mapped out his dialogue. He tends to use phrases over and over again, basically in the same way that some people have, like, action directors have tales about, you know, what they like to do.
Like Michael Bay in Explosions?
Yeah, or James Cameron likes to have shots of feet hitting the ground. He just random things. It's not even like a personal, like a thing that they. It's not like a signature. It's just
George
like
Lucas likes sand. Actually, he hates sand. It gets everywhere.
It's just people, because people have just things that they like doing
like
in certain contexts.
Tarantino has like specific phony brands that always appear.
Well, those are signatures or references. With the Sorkin things, it's just basically you reuse things when you're doing things. Like in my reviews, I always start sentences with "anyway" or "so."
Yeah.
It's like all the fucking time. It's not deliberate. It's just because when I'm writing, that's just what I do.
Your bridging word.
So but Sorkin has like phrases he likes to reuse and stuff. There's just his sort of some directors you can tell who they are by the action or what actually happens on screen. With Sorkin, it's mainly dialogue.
Well, I didn't notice, but then again, I'm not. I actually at the end of the movie turn and says, that guy looks a lot like Kevin Costner, and she said that's because it is Kevin Costner. I'm like, well, there you go. As I know we discussed it like a few videos ago, but I really lack gestalt processing in faces. Like, during Aquaman, I had to be like, here, that's Nicole Kidman, right? Okay.
This is why she's mistaken very, very tall people around randomly for me all the time.
That's not how that works. Because who else do we know that wears a purple greatcoat?
She mistook this Nautilus for me once.
No, I didn't. Actually, our fan, Claire, from London, well, England, I don't know if she actually lives in London, sent this to, okay. Well, because London is basically most of South England, so I get confused.
This is made by one of Claire's friends.
It's a Nautilus. It's knitted, look at this, and it's got little curly-Q tentacles, and they're like, they're posable curly-Q tentacles. I'm very happy about this.
Claire, who turned up in the cheap review, she was one of the crowd yelling stuff at me.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yep.
But, so this wasn't a bad movie. I don't want people to think that it was a bad movie just because it's not the kind of movie that we usually watch. I mean...
Yeah, there's very little to say. I mean, I imagine someone a bit more highbrow would have more to say about it.
You know what it reminded me of? Your man, I can't mind his name, but Michael Lewis wrote a book about him. And it was Michael Lewis's first bestseller. The one about the MIT card counter. That him and his friends literally mathematically figured out how to game gambling. And they had a whole racket, and when they finally got. But then, like, everybody was like, how did you do the thing? And they're like, well, we used maths. And it was like that's kind of what it reminded me of.
I was flabbergastedly found it hilarious that Chris O'Dowd turned up with a bad American accent playing an American, because Chris O'Dowd, he played the slobby guy from the IT crowd, and he's very, very Irish. He was also in Thor: The Dark World.
Like a Dublin accent or like a Kerry accent?
He's from Roscommon.
Oh, that's down yonder.
But he's got a very Irish accent, and he randomly turned up in this playing an American. I was like, you were filming this in America. Why did you get an Irish guy to do a bad American accent in this small part to play?
Maybe he knew somebody who was in the film, and they're like,
they could have made the character Irish randomly, because most of the characters in this were not named real names.
Well, I was led to believe he was Irish American because like her name is Molly Bloom, and he's like, oh, you're not Irish, and she's like, no, that's a James Joyce character. He's like, oh, I thought you were Irish.
Yeah, but he was all like he was claiming he's Irish, even though he would be Irish American. But
That's a thing.
The most of the characters in this, because in the same way in the book, most of the characters in this are not named after real people. They're just sort of they get pseudonyms and stuff. So they could have made the character Irish, and it would have been less confusing.
Maybe he wanted the challenge, but he's like, no, make the character American. I can do this.
No, you can't do this.
I couldn't. If you hadn't said, I wouldn't have been able to. And even after you said, it sounded like some guy.
I would have loved to see Richard Ayoade. I think that's how it is. He's got the really long. He's got the confusingly spelled surname. Who's also in the IT crowd. Who would make a fantastic doctor, by the way.
Yeah, your man.
He should have turned up doing a bad American accent, and then it would have been like Dark Place. It would have been amazing.
Look, you need to understand. Oh, you need to understand. You ever watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place? I think it's all on YouTube. Just look it up. It's really funny. But so.
You and he were buddies, weren't you?
But I feel bad because usually it's a movie that is like a hidden gem. Not a hidden gem, but like the one that we saw that we thought would be a spy thriller.
It was the jazz
and it was
King
like,
Lear.
Yeah.
No, King Lear, Othello.
Othello. And we're like, oh, we didn't expect that. But that was really neat. You know? Or it's something that people are like, oh, I want to see what you think about this. It's just 97 minutes of people just shitting on each other and falling downstairs and dying and ghosts and just like really like.
That's my usual review material.
Or
That's
like,
not a good.
This was filmed in 1983 on Polaroids. It was put together in a flip book and put on VHS. Like, you know, shit like that.
Oh, La Jetée.
Huh?
There was an actual film made in the late 40s, early 50s, which was literally a bunch of still images put together. And it was later remade by Terry Gilliam as 12 Monkeys.
No, I just tried to think of what is the like least effective, cheapest, poorest quality film that I could think of, and it would be if you took a whole bunch of like the big thick color Polaroids back in the day and went. Because that's the kind of stuff that people send us, or like someone's like, oh, excuse me, Hagen, I'm a director, and we just went to my cousin's house this weekend and filmed the slasher movie, and I have it on a flash drive. Can I mail it to you? You know, like stuff like that.
I want to know which director I've been in contact with that's an impersonation of, because I can't think of anyone who have actually sent me stuff. No, this would not be like,
this would just be like some person on the internet. You know, but that's what I mean, like
because
really,
it doesn't sound like Sean Weathers or Jimmy Screamer Claus.
No, because Sean Weathers is more manly than that.
Even Kevin Strange.
We've seen his 6-pack. It's
this
more
is
like
very true.
$1,000,000 because apparently, like, he's vegan, but he still manages to like keep up those muscles.
He's got a 16-pack.
Yeah, we asked him, why were you always, like, opening your shirt in the movie? And he was like, oh, it's because of my abs. And we're like, oh, that's fair enough.
Yeah, he before filming Hookers in Revolt, he just lost a bunch of weight because he knew he was going to have sex scenes. So he was like, I'm going to be shirtless the whole time.
And we're like, his shirt falls off remarkably often. Even more than, like an anime, you know, like, magical girl transformation scene. But yeah, so this was, like, a movie that was, like, you know, good. It's just not the kind of thing that we would watch.
I find it a bit
so
dull.
We're like, I mean, I don't know.
It's not exactly a story that I was particularly interested in seeing.
Well, because like we knew spoilers. We knew that she was still alive, and you know we knew kind of everything was all right because otherwise, you know, we'd have heard about it. But it was kind of funny that the trailer for I, Tonya preceded this.
I, Tonya looked a bit more interesting. Yet to see it.
I remember like when that whole thing was like going down in real life, and I was like, good lord.
See, I've been watching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina recently, and I want all of Melissa
I've been playing Assassin's Creed, honestly.
I want all of Melissa Joan Hart's shows to be remade with added cannibalism, murder, and demonology, especially, you know, God's Not Dead 2.
You know what would be really great?
Explains
It
all.
was Clarissa Explains It All, but Christine McConnell played her mum. I don't know who played the dad. That'd be really great. And, like, Ferguson, like, instead of being, like, a nerdy little guy, like, she'd be, like...
He's Danny from The Room.
No, like she'd be, like, pure goth and everything. So he'd be, like, a really popular, like, football player that just gets no respect, like, at home from her. And he's like, no, shut up! Everyone loves my dick! And she's like, Netflix, get on this. Yeah, because apparently I wanted to be Melissa Joan Hart. Actually, no, I just wanted her room. You know, when I was a kid and watching Clarissa Explains It All. It really, like, never, like, gelled in my mind the inappropriateness of, like, her male best friend just has a ladder that he can, like, get up into her bedroom at any point in time, and he does so whenever he feels like it. Like, Sam's a great guy. I know he would never, like, try to take advantage of Clarissa, but I was kind of like, I want, like, that really awesome room, because she get to, like, have it whatever color she wanted, and so, like, yeah, I wanted to, like, explain my inner thoughts and beliefs to, like, the studio audience. They'd be like, oh, right, okay, yeah. So, just cast me, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
We're talking about everything but the... I feel bad because the patron's like, I
strange...
need to know what you feel about this movie.
Well, I find strange it's called Molly's Game, and yet she has a lot of different games. Even by any reasonable metric, she has a lot of different games.
Well, no, see, like, it's a meta thing, like, so her game is her life to this point.
That's not a game, that's a life to this point.
No, but it's kind of, it's a metaphor.
You know, they talk about, like, you know, her game as in the sort of the pickup artist thing where she's like, you know, I'm really good at manipulating people. Is that what they're getting at?
No, it's like kind of like, I'm trying to think how to explain this. Like, you know, ever since, like, you know, her father was like, this is how you will be. You know, like, she was set forward on her various paths in life and everything like that. It's how she's gaming the system, how she's becoming, she says it at one point, I was trained to be a champion. And so winning and being the best was always the forefront of my mind. Against whom? Well, that was incidental. So it's kind of like, you know, in the end she's like, you know, I always get back up and, you know, it's hard to keep me down and stuff like that. So she's still playing this game. She'll be playing this game until she dies.
So, you might say she was tub thumping?
No.
The song Tub Thumping. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You ain't never gonna keep me down.
Should I like that song? But yeah, so the lesson that we learned is that Kevin Costner can go fuck himself. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that, I'm sure. Is he a nice guy, Kevin Costner, or is he a dick?
I have never heard any bad stories about him,
He's...
though his attempt at an English accent when playing Robin Hood was apparently so bad they refilmed like one scene. They just said, Kevin, use your normal accent. We're keeping Christian Slater's bad English accent, and, you know, Mike McShane's English accent, but you.
What about your man who played...
We're going to refilm you with American.
Robin Hood in Men in Tights.
Cary Elwes.
Yes. Yes.
Cary Elwes went the opposite direction, because if you look at him, for most of his roles since, like, Men in Tights, he's been playing American characters because he moved to America and he wasn't very successful in America, but he would constantly do terrible American accents, most famously in Saw. And it's like, he can't do a convincing American accent, while Kevin Costner couldn't do a convincing English accent.
They should just dub each other all the
time.
They'd be dub friends. They'll be like Face Off, except really, like, good-natured and with audio.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Actually, a woman that I used to work with when I was at the bookshop here, she would always do her American accent. She'd be like, well, you know, Amanda, what are you talking about now, Amanda? And I'm like, Mary, nobody sounds like that in America. She's like, yeah, that's just how that's how you sound. I'm like, no, I don't sound like that. There is no American, like, you're just mixing up, you're drawing out vowels and you're shortening other, like, there's no, like, I was talking with a girl in the volunteer thing that I do every week, and I was training her, and she's like, oh, well, your accent's pure class. Oh, I just love to hear how Americans talk. And I was like, but there's so many different American accents. And she's like, I can only think of one. Well, y'all. And I was like, okay, well, but within the South, there are so, and I tried to break it down, how many different accents there are in southeastern Pennsylvania, in, like, the 5-county area, including the city. There's so many different, like, I could hear someone and tell that they were from Roxborough, which is a specific part of the city, and be like, I'm from Roxborough, so they are.
Omega gets really upset whenever I point out that people from Philly sound like they're from New York.
They don't, though. That's one of the things that like, yeah, but that's like saying, like, someone from Derry sounds like they're from Belfast. They're both Northern Irish accents, but they're very different.
Philly sounds like New York.
It does not. So there's lots of American accents, and that always blows English-speaking foreigners' minds. They're like, what? And you're like, oh, God, accents vary depending on what part of the city you come from.
Where's American accent?
That's the one that you use for everyone, up to and including, like, Joe Biden, who's from Delaware and doesn't sound like that.
No, whenever I would visit her in America, I would do a, Joe Biden impersonation.
We would go out to visit my parents. We would drive from Maryland to Pennsylvania.
This was when Obama and Biden were still in office.
And it's interesting to note that this was right after Question 6 passed in Maryland, so we would go from being married in Maryland, cross the state line into Delaware where we were civil partners, and then cross the state line into Pennsylvania where we were just friends because Pennsylvania did not have gay marriage yet.
So I decided
our rights slowly went down.
Randomly going through Delaware, I would just impersonate Joe Biden, which was actually an impersonation of, what do you call him, Bob Dole, but I decided just to make it Joe Biden for whatever reason.
Well, if he ever asks me about it, I'm implicating you. I like the
Fair
fact that,
enough.
like, Joe Biden call us up and be like, or like leave a YouTube comment, be like, I really wanted to set the record straight. I think the nation needs to know that I don't sound like that.
Joe Biden thinks you should be married in Delaware.
He probably does.
Joe Biden's for gay rights.
But anyway.
That was basically it. I would just do this for a long time, and it would be much wittier than that because we'd have a back and forth as she would be like, well, Mr. Vice President, what do you think of this? And we would just ad-lib off each other. It's, it was probably not even fun at the time, but...
I encouraged her to do so because that kept her from making microtransactions on Plague on my phone, because I had an iPhone.
On Plague Inc.
And she's like, what's your Apple password? Why? Nothing? Why? Well, I want to buy the zombie upgrade. It's only $1.99. I'll give you $2. No. But I'll give you $5. No, don't stop making microtransactions. No, but no.
I think she turned in a good deal if I was going to give her $5.
It's not the point. The thing is that, like, my Apple ID was tied to my PSCCU card. And so, like, they sometimes would get, their security system was really cracked. So sometimes, like, you'd make actual purchases, like, especially on websites, and they'd be like, oh no, fraud alert. Like, no, I had to call back, no, it was me. It was me. I bought the t-shirt. No, thank you, yeah. And so I was just like, I'm not dealing with it because I wasn't even sure I remembered my Apple ID.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Molly's game. I'm sorry, Patron. Well, but then again, you even admitted you had no idea what this was about, so...
No. The Patron may well have known, but they chose it, if memory serves, because of a cat called Molly.
Well, I hope it's all you dreamed of.
Exhilarating, hard-hitting, and genuinely thrilling. I'm going to
It
have a
wasn't,
disagreement
though.
with that.
Like, John Woo films are like that.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people just put stars and then with a blurb, so that's not...
The Times, and this one I can't even read what the fuck. That one there. There's a word there, I can't read who it is.
I can't either, because they, like, okay, if you can see, there's, like, this, like, sunset-ish kind of thing, and it's the perfect shade of red to not...
That's terrible design.
Cheating. Total Film, The Guardian, and Time Out gave it 4 stars. And the same thing on the back. Some unnamed publication gave it 5.
Some guy, maybe.
But, I mean, I'm sure it probably made money. I mean, it wasn't exactly Oscar bait, but,
It apparently did okay.
Yeah, well, so good for Molly, I guess.
And Jessica Chastain, she's going to be one of the stars of part 2 of It. Probably...
She looks a lot like Julia.
Probably playing the girl, unless there was some severe rewriting in the story.
She does look like Julia Roberts, though.
Yeah, you're right that if they made this when the time it was set, they may well have cast Julia Roberts.
Are you trying to... Like, you can't, though. Like, it's not even, like, a bad vision thing. It's just...
Yeah, to read this...
You need, like CSI, like, enhance. Zoom in. So some mysterious entity gave this film 5 stars.
In Radio Times, that was it.
It was Radio Times?
It was Radio Times.
Alright, well, there you go.
Which is a British magazine.
I know what Radio Times is.
Yeah, well, they might not.
Yeah, but you turned towards me, indicating...
I turned towards the camera.
Alright. So, like I say, I hope it was all you dreamed of and more, Patron. I need to make chicken corn chowder. I'm gonna put cheese on top. Okay, just on mine. It'll be very special. And I'm gonna slice a baguette very thin, and then I'm gonna paint on the one side with olive oil and garlic and parsley, and then I'm gonna toast them in the oven until they're quite crisp, so they can dip them into the soup. Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay.
You're gonna have to end it because you have the long arms.